let's start the day on a positive note. Danie, come and let's start the journey today. Bless you.
Good morning. And we're back in this space. So wonderful to see you again. I was here yesterday and we had this beautiful conversation on synchronicity. I think that the most important part of that was to make sure that you were able to see those synchronicities throughout your day. So let's go back to that space. In case you were not here, the main premise of what was spoken yesterday was about the air that we're breathing. So once again, I'm going to ask you to bring this feeling into the space. Take 1 second to make sense of all the things that even from yesterday to today have made you change. The person that is sitting right there right now is a bit different to the one that was here yesterday. How has it changed? So breathe in and breathe out. Understanding once again that there is oneness in the air that we're sharing and how it's going from you all the way to you and back to me. Today I want to tell you a little bit more about breathing. There's something that I find quite magical about it. For me, it has been all about finding a way to tell the story of who I am from a different perspective. If you were paying attention yesterday, through all the different panels that we were listening to, through all the different stories, there was one thread that was a constant. People were very much aware, all of the panelists were very much aware of the person that they wanted to be. So think about you. What's the story? What's the narrative that you tell yourself about who you are? When you are in the confidence of you and your mirror, this is not about what you tell a friend, what you tell a stranger, but who are you? What are the things that have determined the path that you're following? You see, for me, the reason why breathing is so important is because it's what has connected me to the feminine. As many of you, my mother was trying to live her life in a very artistic way, but she found herself, to a certain extent, trapped by having children and by having to raise us. What are the stories that you tell yourself about the obstacles that you have? What are the obstacles that you yourself are facing in the way you deal with life? So breathing was the way out of that for me. For my mother, it was really hard to stay with us. My parents got divorced, and I stayed with my father. This is not a story about darkness. This is not a story about sadness. What is the story that you tell yourself? It's never what happened to you. It's what you make sense of it that matters. This ritual is all about daily intentions. After having fought against that shadow that overpopulated my life by feeling abandonment, by comparing myself with other kids that had a mother, and in Mother's Day in Mexico, which is bigger than Independence Day, and all these things, I got to see something. The story of what you're going to build for yourself, on the entrepreneurial journey that you follow, on the personal growth journey that you follow, it will always come from a space of darkness, of doubt, of questioning, of fear. Your biggest strengths will always be triggered by that. So think back. What is the limiting story that you're telling yourself about who you are, about what your journey has been? So the beauty of it is that I grew up with this incredible nanny. She was an indigenous woman that used to live under the Popocatépetl, our main volcano in Mexico. She was the granddaughter of a shaman, a very powerful shaman. And so she told me the power of herbs. She told me the power of Mexico. I was so much more connected to Mexico than anyone around me because she would share these incredible stories about all the magic that my country involves. And if you've been in Mexico, you know what I'm talking about. That energy is so alive. Those spirits are so present. If you care to see them, the same way as the synchronicities will be present if you take a minute to acknowledge them. So my daily ritual is all about letting go from the hair. Taking that moment, that mirror conversation, to understand that all the things that you're carrying, all your thoughts, and remember, neurons are not only in the brain. Neurons are in the brain, are in the heart, and are in the gut. That is why Mayans and Aztecs would always talk about God being contained in the 3 places. And the soul always being the extension, the hair always being the extension of the soul. So once again, in that story that you tell yourself about what has brought you here and what has been the difficult path, what do you need to let go of? What's the information that you need to release of your system for your growth? For me, that narrative about abandonment, about pain, about hurt, about that little girl was something that I really needed to let go of because that was hurting my relationship with the feminine. It wasn't only with myself or with my friends or with my family. It was my relationship with the feminine. And yet the first time that I got to braid another woman's hair, all that energy cleaned up. Because once, after you release, after you let go of all of those programmings, and you just call upon the actual elements of power that you need in order to start the day ahead, you are having the most direct conversation with your deepest self. So that's when braiding came into place. My nanny would wake up early, and whenever I had a speaking engagement, she would braid my hair. And as she did, she shared with me the soul of Mexico. What I ask for you is that you find a visual, just one visual, that brings that strength for you, that reminds you of your inner force, because your biggest obstacle will always determine your biggest success. And this is not just about the investment. Remember how we were listening yesterday about all this, the journey into getting investment from others, and it's way beyond that. It's your limitations, your obstacles will be your biggest fire. And if you cannot see it, if you still carry some sadness or some regret or whatever it is, then you're just not letting it manifest itself. After that experience of braiding that woman, I got into this beautiful realization, which is that by creating a daily intention of how I could help another woman out, I could start expanding and making a conscious effort to expand myself. Because through empathy, that's exactly what it happens. There's a ripple effect to it. When you are wishing well on the people around you, people can feel that energy. Always stay with good thoughts. And when you braid your hair, or when you do the ritual that you identify with the most, bring that to life. What are you braiding into your life today? In the way that you deal with others and in the thoughts that you have inside your mind. Because breathe in, breathe out. We're breathing the same air. And every thought that you have inside your mind is so much more powerful than anything that you will ever utter with your mouth. If you pay attention to your thoughts and bring that awareness to you through a daily ritual, you can change your life. And look at this. What does this braid symbolize in reality? You can see the ups and downs, the mountains and the valleys. Your life will always be that. And in the effort of braiding, that you can clearly see that, if you don't know how to braid, just think of this. The one thing you have to do is try to reach the balance. Go into the middle. 3 strands. Past, present, future. You're in constant search for balance. That's what life is all about. You're just striving from balance, from extreme happiness to sadness, to the movements that happen in the world, through periods of war and peace. All we're trying to find is that balance between the light and the dark, from the universal to the individual. How are you finding the balance in your life that puts into perspective both light and darkness? Light and darkness. And then the final element, which is what has become my greatest element of power, which is the power of intention. What can you do today in order to help another woman out? Whatever way possible. Someone that is outside your nucleic family. Today, you have the power to do this one introduction, to send this one message that can change another woman's life. And the ripple effect of you living with this daily awareness can be an absolute life changer. For me, that's what's symbolized in the final knot. I always take the time in front of the mirror and close this intention. Knots are extremely powerful. There was a full language that was built out of knots for the Incas, the Quipu. What are the visuals that you're bringing about in your daily life that are not about standing up for a brand or being represented by something that might simply imply luxury, but that more than that, they actually represent how you want to live your life, what you stand for, and more than anything, your inner power. Because we're all going through this constant fight between light and darkness. And it will be up to you to determine which story you're going to tell yourself. Is it the story of abandonment, or is it the story of strength? You are the one that decides what the past was. Never trust your memories or the things that people have told you, because those things keep you down. Build your own narrative and realize how that has brought you to where you are today. We are at a time when we need this power of community. We need this oneness. And sometimes we're not able to make big changes across the world, or we might feel we don't. But the ripple effect of every single action that you're taking is felt. I can tell you that the intentional breathing that I have done has expanded my reach to the most incredible experiences, people, and synchronicity. Just because I make sure that every single day, just 3 minutes of my life are spared into someone else's. And I know that from giving this to someone else, there's a ripple effect. So live your life and perceive the other the same way that you want to be perceived by yourself. From the individual to the universal. Yesterday, MasterCard was giving this wonderful conversation on their brand and how they build that about. What is it that you truly stand for? Be aware of it and use it to trace the narrative of your life and to paint it in the way that you find fit in order to fulfill your purpose. Second day at Labs. I hope that you found your person with that special spark of light. I hope that you spoke to that person. And if there's one thing that I wish for you in the rest of your journey through these days, is that you continue to see the spark not only in the persons around you, but in these stories. Because you will find those little ding, ding, dings that make so much sense to you that you need to research further. Because there is all this magic around you that we've been taught not to see, that comes from your intuition. So call for those messages, acknowledge them, and make sure that every single day you create one intention that replicates and that can start changing the dynamic that we have in the world right now. Because it's inside of you, and it's inside every interaction that you can affect this space. Enjoy your second day. Thank you so much for being here. And let's bring about the version of ourselves that we want to see in the world.